If it's happening in the NBA, you know I got you covered. Make sure you subscribe on all platforms and leave that 5-star review. Let's get it.
Listen to everybody. Nobody believes in you. What are you prepared to do about it? Don't let no one come into your house, take your meal, do what you need to do today.
Was it thoughts about Westbrook or was it thoughts about us?
All of it. The combination collectively.
Fuck who's over there.
Yeah, we ain't worried about that.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, man, we here.
But we come in, we worry about us.
We here too, though. We coming to everybody. For sure.
Talk about it.
You are now tuned in to Above the Rim. Hoops talk for the streets.
Family, what's good? Welcome back to another edition of Above the Rim. Hoops talk for the streets. You already know how we do, family. Brought to you as always, it's your host, Justin, aka Just Blaze. Family, you know the drill to get in contact with me. You can always hit me up and follow me on Twitter at JustBlaze_513, on IG at JustBlaze513, on Facebook and YouTube. Search Above the Rim Podcast. Also email the show as well, Above the Rim NBA Podcast at gmail.com. Tap in and leave the family a voicemail. The line is always open, 908-718-1592. Best way to support the show is by copying merch. Appreciate everything. Of course, make sure you hit the website, copy hoodies, copy tees, and all of that other good stuff. Link is in my bio, very easy to find. Appreciate everything, of course. Make sure you leave your boy a review on iTunes, on Spotify. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you hit the thumbs up, the like button, subscribe, all that good stuff. Tell a friend to tell a friend. I appreciate it, of course. Solo episode this week, family. It's about that time for a quick playoff preview. The playoffs came very quick, I must say, but I'm not mad at it, right? I couldn't be more ready. I'm excited. I'm hyped for this playoff run. I know y'all are hyped for this playoff run. I can't wait for it to happen. Can't wait to see it. This is the playoffs that we've all been anticipating for a little while now, because it's going to be one of the most even playoffs that we've seen in a while. And I'm anticipating a very good and a very exciting playoffs to come up ahead. But before we get into the playoff preview, let's get to some news around the NBA before we dive into these playoff matchups right here. So, news around the NBA, we talked about it last episode. The Dallas Mavericks are eliminated from the play-in tournament. The nerve of these guys, the nerve of these dudes to not only not make the playoff, not qualify to make the playoffs, they didn't even qualify for the play-in. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? These guys didn't even qualify for the playoffs, man. The Mavs are eliminated for the playoffs, I said before. They didn't even make it to the 10th seed. Coach Thorpe and I last episode told you this last week. The Mavs are very sus, and I wouldn't be surprised if Kyrie Irving is looking elsewhere by the time the summer rolls around. It would be very disappointing, but I would not be surprised if it does happen. Listen, the way this team is set up, Kyrie Irving, he played about 19 or 20 games or so, averaged 26, 5, and 5. He had a really good season with the Dallas Mavericks. A really good I wouldn't even say season, a really good quarter of a season with the Dallas Mavericks. And I know he got a lot of the blame when it comes to how the team performed as a whole, how they didn't make the playoffs, but he deserves very little of the blame because the team was flawed to begin with as he got there. So the Dallas Mavericks not making the playoffs, completely unacceptable and very disappointing in them for not making the playoffs. And to have two elite players, Kyrie Irving, and Luka Doncic, and pretty much free fall in this short amount of time is crazy to me. It's absolutely ridiculous to me. Listen, I could maybe understand maybe not making the playoffs, maybe not the AC, because the Western Conference is so very stacked, it's so very competitive, but not making the playoffs? The playoffs? Come on, brother. It's disrespectful to your fans that you didn't even make the playoffs, right? Dallas Mavericks this season were the third worst in assists per game and last in rebounding as a team. Second to last in steals and second to last in block shots. They basically went from bad to worse towards the end of the season. Pulling the plug on the season when you could have gotten in the play-in was pathetic to me. What they did at the end of the season in that last and final game, I forgot who they played against, but the front office and the management basically pulled the starters, basically pulled the entire lineup and basically forfeited that game so they can qualify to get a better draft pick. instead of trying to compete and make the playoffs as a team when you have these two studs, when this was the same team that went to the Western Conference Finals last year? That's ridiculous to me. Come on, listen, that's pathetic. Like I said before, you basically quit, or you're basically saying that you don't think your team is good enough to compete in the playoffs, and you'll rather tank for a draft pick. Unacceptable, ridiculous. Mavericks have some shame. Let's talk about the play-in tournament, family. In the East, coming up this week, coming up in these next couple of days is the play-in tourney right before we get to the playoffs. In the East, it's the Heat, it's the Hawks, it's the Raptors, and the Bulls all in the playoff tourney. Tough, very evenly matched play-in tourney. The two teams that I think are getting in are the Heat and the Raptors. I had to really think about it, really decide who I think was really going to get in. Now, I could be wrong, but I'm recording this Monday before the playing games even start, so give me some love that I'm even predicting this before the playing games start. But these are the two best teams, in my opinion, in the East out of that play-in tournament. This is going to be a tough play-in, but shame on Miami for even being here. I'm going to be honest, because the Miami Heat is not a play-in caliber team, so they shouldn't be in the 7th seed to be playing in the play-in, but maybe it was for a reason. Maybe they wanted to match up with the Boston Celtics. Maybe they feel like they match up better with the Boston Celtics over the Philadelphia 76ers. Time will tell. Jimmy Butler's on that squad. We're going to talk about it soon, but they are a much better team than this, than a 7th seed team. So I think the 8th seed is going to come down to the Hawks, the Raptors, and the Bulls. And I think it's going to be a very, very, very tight, very evenly matched series, elimination games. But I personally think out of those three teams, the Raptors are the best suited to win that play-in series. And I think they are the best comp for the Milwaukee Bucks. So we'll see how that shakes out. In the West, in the play-in tourney, you got the Lakers, it's the T-Wolves, it's the Pelicans, and it's the Oklahoma City Thunder. The two teams that I think are getting out of this play-in tournament in the West, the Los Angeles Lakers and the New Orleans Pelicans. The Lakers, I think they win the first game against the Timberwolves. I feel like they actually want the Grizzlies for some reason, but I think they're tripping, in my opinion. I would rather play the Nuggets if I were the Lakers, right? So I think the Lakers are going to win the first game. I think they're going to beat the Timberwolves. And then I think it's going to come down to the Pelicans and the Timberwolves for that 8th and final spot. I think there's too much turmoil going on right now in Minnesota for them to even win not only one, but two of these playing games. I don't think they are, right? I don't think they're going to win the two playing games to get that 7th seed. I think because of that, the first loss, I think they're going to be a little bit fatigued. And I think it's going to be difficult for them to win that second play-in game when they are going to be playing a very, very hungry Pelicans team. Now, we know the Pelicans are clearly not getting Zion back. He's been ruled out basically for the play-in, so that's very disappointing on his part. He only played, about 20-something games this season again, which is utterly disappointing again. Another failed season for Zion Williamson. He's been disappointing again this season after having a very, very promising start, right? He's letting his team down. He's letting his whole city down right now, because at one point when Zion was in the lineup, the Pelicans were a number 1 seed in the Western Conference. How do you go from a number 1 seed to a playing caliber team in the West? That's not good enough. So Zion, clearly they need you, and clearly they won't be able to perform up to their standards because you're not there, right? But that being said, I still think they are a good enough team to beat the Timberwolves in a play-in game. They just played them the other day. It went down to the wire. It was a nail biter. Don't sleep on Trey Murphy also as well for the Pelicans, man. Listen, Pelicans have some nice young pieces. Trey Murphy is a sniper from deep. He can be a catalyst in that series, and he is one of their better scorers, aside from CJ McCollum and aside from Brandon Ingram getting those buckets. So I do think he will emerge in Zion Williams' absence for the New Orleans Pelicans, and I think he's going to provide them a nice punch. And I do think they will win that play-in game to get the 8th spot. Speaking of the Timberwolves, Rudy Gobert. We got to talk about his punch with Kyle Anderson. What the hell is this dude thinking right now? People were already calling this trade one of the worst of the summer. And now you might be proving them right, Rudy Gobert. Listen, it might be something about Rudy, because it seems like a lot of the NBA players are not too fond of this guy. I'm gonna be honest. A lot of teams are not too fond of this guy, and I'm not sure why. I mean, there's a couple of reasons I can think of, but I'm not sure why. In reality, a lot of these NBA players are not really too fond of Rudy Gobert, right? So they had a little scuffle on the bench. Kyle Anderson, Rudy Gobert in the last game of the regular season, arguing on the bench. Woj came out and reported that they had a little spat. Kyle Anderson basically called him a little bit. Basically on the bench, Rudy Gobert got a little tight. He threw a little sucker punch at him. He missed. I don't even know if it was a real punch. It was like a little jab. Kind of went to sort of his face, but he kind of hit him in the shoulder kind of a little bit. I mean, it was weak and it was unnecessary, but Rudy Gobert, dummy. Dumb move. You could have just waited till after the game to snuff Kyle Anderson, but you couldn't keep your emotions in check, brother. Now you're suspended now by your team for the first play-in game. So against the Lakers, you won't even be eligible to play. And even if they do win that game, which they won't, the next game, when you come back, what is your relationship like with your teammates in that crucial game if they already went through a play-in game with you and they're not feeling you like that? So the T-Wolves, because of this incident, the T-Wolves are going to have a lot of decisions to make this summer. They gave up a lot of draft capital. They gave up a lot of assets in order to acquire Rudy Gobert. So we're going to see how they pivot and how they move forward this summer. If they keep him, if they keep Karl Anthony Towns, what's going to happen with Anthony Edwards? We know he's going to be there, but is he going to officially be the face of the franchise? We will see. But it was a dumb move nonetheless. And they are going to pay for that moving forward. Family, let's get to this playoff preview. That's the reason why we came here, right? I'm going to start off in the Western Conference. I know a lot of the playoff matchups are not set right now because, like I said before, I'm recording this episode before the play-in games. I just want to get this out before the playoffs actually start. But I'm going to give my thoughts, my overview on a lot of the series. Some of the series are set so far, so I'm going to talk about those as well. And then I'm going to actually pivot over to some of the potential series and talk about how I think the lineups adjustments will be, what I think is going to strategy going forward. So 4-5 matchup in the West, Suns versus Clippers. Y'all already know me, man. This is the series I will be barking about most, right? Y'all already know what it is. Excellent series right here. Two evenly matched teams when healthy. The Clippers are dealing with a Paul George injury. I think he's coming back mid-series. He's not going to be available for the beginning part of the series, but they said he will come back, or he might come back towards middle portion of the series. I think he will come back because I don't think he's going to really miss an entire series. He can't do that. He's definitely coming back. High-level series. High-level basketball series here, folks. KD versus Kawhi, CP3 versus Russ, Book versus maybe Paul George. Two great high-level coaches, both championship contending teams in a first-round matchup. This series reminds me of when Chris Paul was on the Clippers a few years ago in round one, when they basically had to play the San Antonio Spurs in round one, who was the defending champs that year. And it was a very, very difficult, hard-fought series that went to Game 7. We know Chris Paul hit the game winner in Game 7 in that series. I think this is going to be a series just like that if Paul George does come back mid-series, because I do think he will. I'm assuming and anticipating he will. So the Suns will have to play against a semi-healthy Clippers team. And this Clippers team is deep. They've been deep the entire year. This is no slouch. They are the 5th seed for a reason, but they could easily be a 1, 2, or 3 seed if they were fully healthy this year. This will be a tough series as I said before. The Suns have been rolling with KD in the lineup. Haven't even lost a game without my son KD in the lineup. They are undefeated 8-0 when Kevin Durant plays this season with an average margin victory of 11 points each game. Both teams have great respect for each other. The season series was tied 2-2 this season. So very evenly matched up, like I said before. So I'm going to talk about, in each series, I'm going to talk about a couple of things that I'm watching for in each series, if there's an X factor in the series, and then also my series prediction to end it off. So in this series in particular, what am I watching for in the Suns versus Clippers playoff series? KD versus Kawhi. Who's going to win that individual particular battle? Two of the best mid-range shooters in the game. Only players this season with 20 points per game, 50 plus field goal percentage, and 40 plus 3-point percentage. Kevin Durant, Kawhi Leonard. Last time these two guys matched up with each other was in the 2019 NBA Finals. Golden State Warriors against the Toronto Raptors. Hopefully, they will be guarding each other for a good portion of the series. You remember what happened in that 2009 series? That's when KD came back from injury. He tried to push it, and then he got re-hurt in that series. Kawhi ended up winning that series, but both were dynamite in the games that they played. Kawhi Leonard it was that year for him. He's back again in the postseason in relatively healthy fashion this time. That's why this series in particular is very important for Kawhi as a whole. So hopefully they'll be guarding each other for a good portion of this series. Both are so good that they could possibly cancel each other out. Or one or the other could be that unstoppable force that puts their team over the top. Both of these guys are that good. Both of these guys are unguardable. Both of these guys can get to their spots no matter who's guarding them. So it's going to be very interesting to see how their individual matchup plays out. Another thing I'm watching for in this Clippers and Suns series is the pace. What is the pace of this series going to be like? The Clippers in the regular season are 24th in pace, while the Suns are 22nd in pace this season. This will be a very, very methodical series, in my opinion. Mid-range shots, half-court adjustments, slower pace type of game with very selective shots taken. Will any of these teams switch it up and try a quicker offense or get out in transition? That's going to be one of the keys to the series. That could potentially be where Russell Westbrook comes into play, where he invokes his energy into the series. And on the other side, this could be an opportunity for CP to really pick up the pace in a way that we've never seen it before. He could pick up the pace as in outlet passing, or also pick up the pace in a way as he's shooting those above the break threes, getting it down the floor, shooting a three instead of passing it out, instead of calling the play. Get it down court quickly after you get a rebound, shoot that above the break three. Russell Westbrook, dash into the rim, dive into the rim, trying to get a foul call, trying to get to the free throw line, or maybe passing it up to an open shooter. So that to me is going to be the key. If one of these teams can really up their pace of play and really play more in transition, and who can get those easy baskets. So that's going to be key that I'm looking for in this series. Also, DeAndre Ayton forced Zubac. Ayton, I'm going to be real. You better win this matchup. You better not let Zubac outplay you in any way. You better get over 10 rebounds. You better get a block or two in this particular series, in every series in the playoffs, because the Suns are going to need you to do all the little things, rebound the ball, block shots, be a rim protector, be the back line of defense along with Kevin Durant. But they're going to need you to do that, okay? So don't play yourself, and you better have a great series. Not good. You better have an excellent series against Zubac, and you better outplay Zoo. I don't want to hear any of that. The series X factor for me, who wins the CP3 versus Russ battle in terms of impact? Is Chris Paul going to have more of an impact on the Phoenix Suns team, or is Russell Westbrook going to have more of an impact on his LA Clippers team? Both of these guys are really going to be setting the tone for their respective teams, and both of these guys are going to decide whether to push the pace or whether to slow it down a little bit. We're going to see which of those guys has more of an impact for their respective teams, and it's going to pay dividends for this entire series. My last X factor for this series, Devin Booker. Can Devin Booker capitalize on the games without Paul George? Devin Booker is coming off a career year scoring-wise, over 27 points per game. He has to dominate his matchup. It doesn't matter who's guarding him if it's not Paul George. They all should be fooled. Everybody guarding Devin Booker, if it's not Paul George or Kawhi Leonard, should be fooled. Devin Booker, this is going to be your series to propel the Phoenix Suns. Your direct matchup is probably going to be out for a couple of games. He might be wounded when he does come back. You got to take over in this series and assert your will in this series, and I'm expecting you to do so. Prediction of this series, I think it's going to come down to Devin Booker, like I said before, and if he can dominate, which I think he will in this particular series, I'm going Suns in 6, my opinion. 3-6 matchup, Warriors and Kings, two of the highest scoring teams in the league. The Warriors asked for this matchup. Very disrespectful. Draymond actually went on record saying they do want to play the Sacramento Kings, but for geography purposes only. We know he was lying right there. It's definitely not for geography purposes. You guys are really sizing up the Sacramento Kings, and you guys think you could beat them and dominate them. And I'm not mad at you for thinking that way. You know you're a veteran team, the defending champs. You have a right, and you've earned a right to think that way. But don't sleep on these Sacramento Kings. That's what I'm telling you. Family, don't sleep on those Sacramento Kings. I know a lot of people don't watch their games, but they are an excellent team this season. Let me tell you how they're an excellent team. Best offense in NBA history by offensive rating this year. They have the coach of the year in Mike Brown. They have the clutch player of the year in De'Aaron Fox. The rebound leader in Domantas Sabonis. Lots of youth, lots of athletes. Keegan Murray's one of the best rookies in the league. Metu, Malik Monk off the bench. You got the red velvet Kevin Huerter splashing threes. They have a lot of decent pieces. Harrison Barnes is a steady force. They have a lot of pieces on this team, which contributes to winning. And there's no secret why they're the number 3 seed in the Western Conference. Do not sleep on the Sacramento Kings. They are a very good team, and I feel like they're getting disrespected a little bit. This season, the point guard battle, De'Aaron Fox versus Steph Curry this season in their matchups, it's a hell of a battle. De'Aaron Fox this season against Steph Curry, 25 points, 3 rebounds, 8 assists, 1 steal. Steph Curry against De'Aaron Fox this season, 35 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 5 threes a game. It's going to be a hell of a battle. One of the best defensive guards in the league against one of the best offensive guards in the league. Obviously, it's Steph Curry we're talking about right here. This is going to be a hell of a guard battle that we are in for. Both of these franchises, have never played against each other in the playoffs in NBA history. So this is going to be a first timer for both of these two franchises squaring off against each other. In the regular season, the Warriors won the season series 3-1. What I'm watching for in this series, if the Kings lose one of these first 2 games at home, I'm afraid the series will be over at that point. They have to win both of the first 2 in particular games at home. The Kings' margin for error in this series is very, very, very small. I worry about the Kings' defense because it has been mid this entire year. It hasn't been great. They also are another team that tries to outscore you. But against this team, this is the wrong team to use that strategy. You cannot use that strategy against the Golden State Warriors. You can't try to outscore them because you're going to lose that battle. So you've got to up your defensive prowess. You got to up your defensive intensity. You got to up your discipline on the defensive end because this is no easy team to guard. And they already called you marks. So you got to really be prepared for this series. One advantage that the Sacramento Kings do have that a lot of people are forgetting about is that Mike Brown just came from the Golden State Warriors as their assistant coach, and now he's the head coach of the Sacramento Kings. So what does that mean? You know he knows their playbook. So you know he's going to have these guys well prepared. All they have to do is stick to the game plan and actually listen to the game plan. That's why I say discipline in this series is the most important. Your coach directly knows the blueprint of your opposing team. Who also knows their playbook on the Sacramento Kings? Harrison Barnes, who won a championship with the Golden State Warriors in this same really offense that they run. So he knows how the offense is run. So you have 2 semi-advantages on your side. You have to find a way to take advantage of that. For the Warriors, I'm looking out for their turnovers. They're last in the league in turnovers per game this year. They definitely got to take care of the rock. It's been no secret that they make a lot of careless turnovers. That's been one of their Achilles heel for the last couple of years. Steph Curry turns it over a lot. Draymond Green turns it over a lot. Jordan Poole turns it over a lot. So if they don't take care of the rock in this series, they will allow the Kings to run them out the gym. They're a young team, hustle, athletic team. They want to run at every chance they can get. So the Warriors have to tighten up their turnover game. We'll see if they take care of that. X factor for this series, I'm going to go Sabonis. Can he control the paint in a way where it forces the Warriors to adjust their lineups? If they can leave Draymond on, if the Warriors can leave Draymond on him and have their versatile 4 lineup in with Wiggins, Clay, Steph, and Poole, the Kings may not have a chance in that series. But I do think they will be highly prepared for the series. I do think Domantas Sabonis will be ready, will be dominant in this series, particularly on the balls. on the boards, particularly with paint scoring, because that's going to be their advantage if they do have an advantage in this series, because it's going to be tough for them. And like I said before, Warriors already marked them. They already feel like they could beat them. So you're going to have to find a new advantage that they haven't thought about in their game plan for this series. And that's going to be difficult to do. But I think the Kings are really, really excited about this series. And this isn't your typical young team. This team is ready. They've been knocking on the playoff door for a while now, and it's about time they got in. So we're going to see if the Kings are ready and up to the task and up to the challenge. My prediction for this series, I actually like the Kings' chances in this series, but they're not going to win this series. Come on now. It's a tough series, but I'm going to go Warriors in 7. I'm going to give the Kings a little bit of respect only because they have home court advantage, but it's going to be a 6 or 7 game series, and the Warriors are definitely going to win, but I'm going to go 6 to 7. I'm going to say, because I want to show the Kings some love, I'm going to go 7 games. See how that works out. The 2-7 matchup in the Western Conference, this is going to be interesting because it's going to be the Grizzlies. We know it's the second seed, and they're either going to play the Lakers or the Timberwolves, in my opinion. I personally think it's going to be the Lakers, so I'm going to talk a little bit like as if they're going to play the Lakers just in case they do. But I'm going to focus a little bit more on the Grizzlies. Steven Adams being out for them is so huge. Not only him, but my man Brandon Clark also as well. 2 integral pieces of the Memphis Grizzlies offense and defense, both of these guys. I'm worried about the Grizzlies a little bit because those 2 guys really helped out in their advantage against other teams, which is offensive rebounding, defensive rebounding, pure energy, and hustle. That's one of the advantages the Memphis Grizzlies have over other teams. I'm still very confident in this Grizzlies team. They have shown time and time again that they all have players that will step up no matter who's on the floor. Since they lost Steven Adams, they signed Kenny Lofton Jr. from the G League to really try to solidify a little bit of that lineup. He was a G League MVP, so we do know he can ball, he can hoop. We saw in the last regular season game where they played him, they just threw him out on the floor. And what did he have? 42 points and 14 rebounds in the last regular season game. He can hoop. Baby Zach Randolph, as they call him. He's slow-footed. He's a little big, a little chunky, but he's hooping down there. He's getting down in the middle. He's scoring really well. He has become a paint presence, so I do think he will contribute some valuable minutes in the playoffs. What I'm watching for in this Grizzlies playoff run, maybe in the first round, depending on who they play against, is if the Grizzlies will lose their defensive identity. With Steven Adams out, they lose their size advantage, and now they are solely relying on Triple J to really be their sole rim protector. Now, we know Triple J is prone to getting in foul trouble at times. We know he can make some mental mistakes. We know he can make some simple mistakes in the playoffs. But we're going to hope that he doesn't make those mistakes, and we are going to hope that he learned from his past and really stops making those ticky-tack fouls in the playoffs, right? He's going to be the key for Grizzlies that I talked about in episode 200. Go back to that when I talked about how Triple J is the key to the Grizzlies offense. Another key to the Grizzlies in this playoff run, Luke Kennard. The emergence of Luke Kennard. Look out for him. The Grizzlies are now going to have to go small without Steven Adams and Brandon Clark, and his 3-point shooting is going to become so critical for this team. It's going to keep the lane open for Ja, keep the lane open for Desmond Bane, and we're going to see if he can really knock down those shots. He had the best 3-point percentage in the league this season, so we'll see if he can continue that in the playoffs, and he's going to be a really important piece for them. Series X Factor, we don't know who the Grizzlies are going to play yet, but I'm assuming it's going to be the Lakers, and if it is, I think the X Factor for the Grizzlies, I think throughout the playoffs, is going to be Desmond Bane. You know Desmond Bane is my guy. I've been talking about him a lot. Desmond Bane last playoffs, I was a little bit disappointed in him because he went a little bit quiet when the Grizzlies needed him most, especially when Ja Morant got a little bit hurt in that Golden State Warriors series and they needed a little bit more of an offensive punch. They needed him. Now, the game plan will be for Ja, but will Desmond Bane step up his playmaking? We will see. If they play the Lakers, they're gonna need his scoring tremendously, and they're really gonna need him to step up in this playoffs. If they play the Lakers, it's gonna be a tough battle, but AD is gonna have to establish himself in that series, and his job is to get Triple J in foul trouble if they do get in that series. So whoever they play, the Grizzlies, no prediction, of course, because I don't know who they will play, but look out for the Grizzlies. 1-8 matchup in the West. The Denver Nuggets are obviously going to be the number 1 seed. We're not sure who they're going to play against, either the T-Wolves, the Pelicans, or the Oklahoma City Thunder. Could be the Lakers too, but I don't think it will be them. So I'm going to focus a little bit on the Nuggets in this particular segment. Nikola Jokic had another MVP type year. He's going to have to back it up in this postseason. All eyes are on Joker in the West. No excuses for him. Nuggets fans have been talking crazy all year. I don't want to hear any excuses from you guys. You said he should have been an MVP. I don't think he was an MVP, but it's not about the MVP for Jokic. It's about his playoff performance and how deep in the West the Nuggets actually go. Great season for him, 25, 12, and 10. Top 3 in rebounds. Top 3 in rebounds and assists. First in triple doubles. First in plus minus. First in post-up points. More assists per game and a higher field goal percentage this season than in his MVP seasons. Whoever the Nuggets play, there's no excuse for Jokic not to dominate. The bigs he could potentially play against, Rudy Gobert, Valanciunas. I don't know who the OKC Thunder is even rolling out at center right now. Maybe Sarge. I forgot who their starting center was, but all of those guys I named, he's better than. So there's going to be no excuse for Jokic not to dominate in this postseason. What I'm looking for, what I'm watching for in the Denver Nuggets playoff quest, I think it's going to be Bruce Brown, right? That's what I'm looking for the Denver Nuggets. Bruce Brown might be their playoff X factor. Can he play his way into becoming that 5th starter in some of these playoff games? He's a very important glue guy for them. He can step in and fill multiple roles for the Denver Nuggets. KCP is usually in that spot, but sometimes he can go cold from time to time depending on the game. I like Bruce Brown in that lineup, and I like what he brings to the table for the Denver Nuggets. Can he step up, and can he guard the best opposing team's best perimeter player and then provide some offense on the other side? I think he will. I think he's going to be a critical part of the Denver Nuggets, and we'll see who they match up against and how they match up against that team, because I don't know who they're going to match up yet. It's going to be one of those guys. So the Denver Nuggets, TBD, can't give you a prediction. Got to see who they play. Let's move on to the East now, family. The 4-5 matchup is probably the most important matchup in the East. The Cavaliers versus the New York Knicks. Knicks versus Cavs is a very intriguing season to me. Multiple storylines, great guard play, solid coaching, interior presence on both sides, and an evenly matched series from top to bottom, in my opinion. This could be a new rivalry possibly blooming in the NBA by the time this series ends, because I think both of these teams are very evenly matched. Both of these teams will have not really animosities, but there's something to really, really play for. There's some bragging rights as in addition to just winning a playoff series in this particular series. Brunson and Mitchell already went head-to-head in last year's playoffs with the Jazz and the Dallas Mavericks, so those two are very familiar with each other. Brunson had 27-4 in that series. Spider Mitchell had 25-5 in that series. The Cavs are the number 1 defensive team in the league this year. The Knicks have a top 3 offense in the league this year. Brunson, Randall, Spider Mitchell, all having career years this season. The Knicks won the season series 3-1. Tough series to call right now, man. Very, very tough series to call. Let me tell you what I'm watching for in this series. First up, who's guarding Donovan Mitchell? I need to know who's guarding Donovan Mitchell on the New York Knicks, right? You can't let him go off for 50-plus points on multiple games if you are the Knicks. Full-time All-Star, he's averaging 28 points per game on the best shooting splits of his career this season. He's in a hell of a scoring groove. How are you going to stop him? How are you going to slow him down? Who's going to get the assignment? Is it Grimes? Is it RJ Barrett? Will they do a good enough job in containing him? Time will tell, but both of those guys are going to have to be focused. They have an insurmountable task, a very difficult task, which is the task of slowing down Donovan Mitchell. It's going to be very difficult for them to do that, but they have to do that because that is the key for the Knicks. You can't let Donovan Mitchell go on multiple games in this playoff series having over 40, over 50, because we know he can do it. Why? Because we've seen him do it before. Try to limit Donovan Mitchell as much as you can, and then you guys got to take him from there. Also, what I'm watching for in this series, whoever wins the third scorer battle in this series will win the series, in my opinion. Will it be RJ Barrett? Will it be Evan Mobley? RJ Barrett is averaging 19 this season. Evan Mobley is averaging 16 this season. Whoever steps up in the scoring department between those two, I think will be a deciding factor in this series, and in particular, Game 7 if it does go that far. I think those two guys are the most important for their teams and most important scoring-wise for their two teams. X factors for this series: the New York Knicks' composure as a team. I'm looking to see their body language and reactions to things throughout this series. Randall in particular has a tendency to let his emotions get the best of him. Is his shot going to be falling in the series? Coming off an injury, is he going to be the same? How will he handle Evan Mobley's defense, who's one of the better defenders in the league? Will he let the refs dictate his offensive and defensive intensity throughout this series? Will he be able to keep his emotions in check? We will see, because it's going to be very important for the New York Knicks. Prediction for this series: Cavs and Knicks has the potential to be one of the NBA's newest rivalries during this playoffs by the time the series ends. I'm going to go to Cavs in a tough 7. Tough series. I really want to go Knicks, I'm not going to lie to you. I really do. But something tells me the Cavaliers are going to win this series. I'm trying to be not biased here. I think the Cavs will win this series in 7. 3-6 matchup in the East. 76ers versus the Brooklyn Nets. One of my favorites, probably my favorite series in the East will be this one here. Shout out to Embiid, who better win season MVP. Phenomenal season. All eyes are on you right now, brother. You have to stay healthy and you have to produce. 33, 10, and 4 in the season. NBA scoring leader. First in 35-point games. Tied for first in 50-10 games this season. Top 10 in points per game, rebounds per game, blocks per game. Top 2 in ISO and post-up points per game. Most 50-point games in the season by a center since Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. It's your time, Joel Embiid. Show and prove, my brother. But for the Nets, Mikal Bridges, he's up for the challenge. Is he up for the challenge? We'll see. He's been the Nets MVP since he's gotten here. The Nets are one of the more versatile defending teams in the league. Long, athletic unit, leading the league in block shots as a team. I love how Dinwiddie has adapted his game since he's gotten here and become more of a facilitating point guard as well as a scoring point guard. The Nets have their handful this series, family. Season series, the 76ers won all 4 games against the Nets. So the Nets really have no real great footage to go after in regards to preparing for this series. It's going to be a difficult series for them to win, but I do think they will try their very best. What I'm watching for in this series: can Mikal Bridges deal with PJ Tucker? He usually doesn't have the opposing team's best defender on him, but he will now. He's the number 1 option for the Brooklyn Nets. When he was on the Phoenix Suns, he was the number 4th option. Going from number 4 to number 1 is a very, very tough task to do in the same season, mind you. So Mikal Bridges has a tough task ahead of him. And in regards to how he matches up with PJ Tucker, can he handle the physicality? We know PJ Tucker is going to be very physical against him. We know PJ Tucker is a stout defender, a grown man defender. Can he deal with that? We will see. How healthy is Joel Embiid going into this playoffs? He has to be for the 76ers to have any chance in this series. And I think he is right now. But how will he be in 2 weeks, in 3 weeks, in a month? Will he be able to still be in relatively great shape? We know he breaks down every postseason, so we're going to see there. Series X factors for me: are the 76ers going to get scoring James Harden or passive James Harden? Which one is ready to go? It's up to James Harden. Plays a very intricate role on the 76ers. His aggression is what plays a major role in the 76ers and their team game plan and his individual game plan. Fun fact this season, I didn't know, James Harden has never missed the playoffs in his entire NBA career. I didn't know that. 14 out of 14. That's actually pretty crazy. So shout out to him for that. His playoff career, though, has been some of the most volatile of any NBA player in league history. So we're going to see what happens in this postseason, because he could get all the praise or he could get all of the blame, all in the same postseason. So we're going to see how James Harden works. Prediction for this series: unfortunately, 76ers in 6. But I think it's going to be a tough 6-game series. 2-7 matchup. The Celtics are obviously the second seed. They're going to be playing against the Heat, Hawks, Raptors, or Bulls. Celtics versus Heat is who I think will be the 2-7 matchup. What I'm watching for in a Celtics playoff run. Can the Boston Celtics deal with a physical series out the gate? Last year, they didn't really get their physical series to the second round till they played the Bucks. It really took a lot out of them. Then they played the Heat after that, took so much out of them. By the time they got to the Warriors, they were beat up and banged up. Can they handle a physical series against the Heat in round 1? Time will tell. If they do play the Miami Heat, what is the coaching battle going to look like in this series? Eric Spoelstra versus first-year young head coach Joe Mazzulla. Can Joe handle the adjustments of Eric Spoelstra? Can he handle the tactical adjustments of Eric Spoelstra? I don't know. We will see. Can he handle the playoff intensity? Can he handle the in-game adjustments, the game-to-game adjustments? We're going to see because he's going against probably the best coach in the league. Definitely top 3 coach in the league in Coach Spo, one of my favorite coaches in the league. So we're going to see. We're going to hope that Coach Spo doesn't coach circles around Joe Mazzulla, but we're going to see, man. It's going to be really interesting. And that's why that Heat and Celtics series is going to be sneaky competitive. It's not a normal 2-7 matchup. The Heat are not a normal 7th-seeded team, so they're going to be fighting all they can. And we know Jimmy Butler does not want to lose in the first round. X factor for that series, if they do play the Celtics Heat, Tyler Hero for me. Tyler Hero missed about 2 or 3 games the last time these two teams played last year in the Eastern Conference Finals. He's the Miami Heat's best individual scorer. Will he step up? Will he play in every game? Is he healthy every game? Tyler Hero is going to be a major key for the Miami Heat, dictating how far they go or how well they play in this postseason. So Celtics Heat, we're going to see if they play that matchup, and that's going to be a very tough one. Last in the East, 1-8 matchup. Obviously, we know the Milwaukee Bucks is the number 1 seed. They're going to be playing either the Heat, the Hawks, the Raptors, the Bulls. But I'm going to focus a little bit more on the Milwaukee Bucks for this conversation. Giannis Antetokounmpo. My man is on a damn mission right now. He's going to be so tough to stop. How do you stop him? He's going to be ridiculous again in this postseason. He looks healthy. He looks ready to go. I'm not even going to lie. I wouldn't mind if he even got MVP this year. He was my second place MVP. He's been phenomenal this year. Only 2 players in NBA history has averaged 30-plus points per game, 10-plus rebounds a game, and 5-plus assists per game on 50% shooting in a season. It's Giannis and it's Wilt Chamberlain. That's it. 31, 12, and 6 on the season. First 30, 10, and 5 on 50-plus% shooting since Wilt Chamberlain, like I said. Top 5 in points per game and rebounds per game. First in the league in transition buckets. First in 40-10 games. Tied for first in 50-10 games. What I'm watching for in the Bucks playoff run, who's guarding Giannis in any series? Who's guarding? Are they going to build a wall? Are they not going to build a wall? Are they going to try to make him shoot? Are they going to let him get 50 and try to stop everybody else? How do you defend this Milwaukee Bucks team if everybody is healthy? If everybody is healthy. Is Chris Middleton going to be healthy? We have no idea. We saw already in the last couple of games, I forgot what he hurt this time. I don't know if it was knee or if it was wrist again, but he's not 100% healthy going into the playoffs. And we saw what happened last year when Chris Middleton wasn't 100% healthy. The Milwaukee Bucks lost. He is the key to the Milwaukee Bucks. Giannis is going to do his thing. We know that. Who's going to stop him? I have no idea. But he's going to be ready to go. He's one of the better players in the league. How you defend him is going to be the only answer in how you beat the Milwaukee Bucks in this series. I really love their additions. They are a very playoff-ready team. With Jay Crowder, with Bobby Portis, with Brook Lopez, defensively stacked. Javon Carter, don't sleep on him. They have a lot of pieces on this team, and we know the Milwaukee Bucks, obviously, they're the number 1 seed in the East. They are, to me, the favorite in the Eastern Conference to come out of the East, and I think they are the best team in the East going into the playoffs, health-dependent. We're going to see how they move forward, and we're going to see who they play against in that first round, because that's going to make a difference also as well. Is it the Raptors? Is it the Bulls? Is it the Hawks? I personally think it will be the Raptors because I think they are the best, competition for the Milwaukee Bucks because they have a lot of long defenders who can guard them, but we'll see. It's going to be very difficult. The playoffs this year, they're going to be so tight. Anyone and everyone can pretty much beat a lot of teams. I think the coach that's the most clever with the in-game adjustments and game-to-game adjustments will win out this postseason. I'm looking for a very tactical playoffs this year, family. Buckle up. It's playoff time. Family, I appreciate you for joining me once again for another episode. Make sure you hit me up on Twitter, IG, Facebook with all your NBA takes. Send in a voicemail with your thoughts. 908-718-1592. In the comments section on YouTube, write down your playoff predictions for each round. I want to know what y'all are thinking, who you are going to choose in each matchup, even if the matchups didn't even come about yet. Who do you got going to the finals? Who's your top four? Who you got going first? You know I'm going to give my predictions. I probably should give my NBA Finals prediction now, I guess, before the playoffs start. But I mean, I don't think it's any surprise there. I think the Phoenix Suns are going to win the title. I think that's what's going to happen. Check back in with me later, family. But like I said before, I appreciate you. As always, subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend. This is episode 202. We out.